Morning, everybody. We are down in the basement today, not out in the garage. It's cold, it snowed, and so I decided to do this video down in the basement since I could. Didn't need to be out in the garage for this one. Haven't posted in a little bit, but I've been dealing with a lingering Achilles tendon injury and also a tennis elbow. So kind of had to shut things down. Wasn't doing much for a little while there to try to get those both healed up. But we're doing better now, and we're back to projects. So today, you may remember from one of my previous videos, this is one of my winch extensions. That little knot there, not supposed to be there. Goofed up rigging, missed the fact that I had a knot in my rope, pulled tight on it to use the extension, and that was the result. This thing is hard as a rock. I thought maybe I'd be able to, there's a couple of methods of like pounding it with a hammer, that kind of thing, but it pulled so tight. It's hard as a rock. There's no way that this rope isn't damaged right here from that knot. So we're just going to have to deal with that. What I decided to do is take this extension, just cut it down, make other extensions out of it. And while I'm doing that, I figured we'd show you also how I like to do my extensions. I like to put a thimble in them. You can see right here, this is just a wrapping of twine. What it allows me to do is make a nice, good-sized loop on the end of the extension, and then wrap this in here like this. Holds the thimbles in nicely, but easy to change. I can just cut this wrapping free, change those thimbles when I need to, put a new thimble in, and rewrap it down. Makes a nice clean end on there. I kind of like it. But we're going to do that. We're also going to replace some of these. These are a little bit small. They barely fit my screw pin bowl shackles. So I upsized a couple sizes on these to make sure we got enough room to run a screw pin bow shackle through there both directions. But that's the project for today. So we're going to get started with that. We're going to cut this down. We're going to make some loops in the end of these, and then we're going to wrap those thimbles in and I'll show you how to do it. That's how I do it on all my extensions. So I'll bring you along for this, and hopefully you enjoy this one. All right, so I got you with a overhead view today. I think that might be the best way to show what I'm doing with these. So here's our knot that we got to get out. Like I said, this thing is hard as a rock. I was hoping maybe I could take a hammer and pound it out, but I can feel that the rope's kind of damaged there around the edges, even that it's going to be damaged here in this knot. There's no way to save that chunk of rope. So we're just going to cut it out. My plan was to make this particular piece, just make it into two extensions. However, this knot's about 12 feet from the end of my extension, so not really useful. By the time I burn 2 or 3 feet making a loop, it's only going to be about 10 feet long. So I'm not going to put ends. I'm not going to put thimble ends in this one. I'm going to leave it with just open loops, like you see on a lot of ropes. This will be, you can use this for a bridle. A lot of times when I want to bridle across like hooks on the front end of a Jeep or something like that I need, a fairly short piece with some open loops to go around hooks on the front of a vehicle, if that's the option I have, and build a bridle between them. So I think this rope will actually work out really well for that. So what I'm going to do, like I said, instead of putting a thimble in this end, we're just going to make a loop, just braid a loop in the end of this one. And then we'll take this other one that ends up being, 20 or 25 feet long, and we'll make an extension out of that one and put thimbles in both ends of it. So we'll kind of do both of those today. I'll show you that process. But step number one is just going to be cutting this knot out. And fortunately, knife here is actually easier to work with than razor blades. We're going to go ahead and cut that. Before we do, though, I will regret doing this if I don't. I'm just going to wrap the end of that cut with some just plain old electrical tape so that we don't fray there, and then we'll go back to cutting this. Like I said, pocket knives, when it's good and sharp, it's actually easier to work with than a razor blade because it's got a good solid handle on there and can really push your way through that rope and get it cut. So now the next step, we're going to decide how much we need to bury. For 1/2 inch rope, the number is about 30 inches. So typically when I do these for 3/8, I use 24 inches, and for 1/2 inch rope, I use 30. It's close enough to the number, works just fine. And then what we'll do is we'll take about the last 8 inches or so of the rope here, and we're going to taper it down. And I'll show you how I taper it down to make that splice. But the first thing is we're going to just take a tape measure here. Sometimes I estimate, sometimes I actually measure. We're going to measure off about 30 inches there. So that's where we want, 30 inches from the end, that's where we want our loop to start. And we're going to make about a 6-inch loop there. Doesn't have to be exact. That one's a 7. Close enough. We'll pull a little bit back on that one. So about a 6-inch loop. So what I have is right here in these 2 places, this is where I want my splices to start and end. So I'm just going to take a Sharpie. Grabbed it from my fly tying bench. Happens to be a brown one. Doesn't really matter. We're just going to make a couple marks right here just so that we know that's where we want our first crossover to be. So a locking brummel splice, what it does is it takes our tag end here. We're going to run our tag end through, right through the middle. Then we're going to take our running line end. We're going to run it back through. And then we're going to do the regular berry splice. And what that does is that right here at this crossover point, it locks these 2 together. So it can't pull itself out. Again, adds no strength to the splice. The splice is all from the berry, but it locks them together so it can't work its way out. So the standard way of doing a locking brummel splice is you take your tag end here, our short end, we run it through the middle like this, and we're going to come down here and we're going to find the end of our running line. Problem is, we've already done the other end of this. No way you're going to pull all this bulk through the middle of this. So we've got to do it the hard way, basically. And I'm going to get set up here, and I'm going to show you how we pull this rope inside itself a couple of different directions, and then we're going to end up with the locking brummel splice. What I've done is right here, I've got my loop. I've got spots marked right here, and I just kind of went and fluffed them up a little bit so you can kind of see them a little better, but we're going to pass rope through at those points. So what we have is we've got the short tag end of the rope, okay, coming around. We have spot number 1 and spot number 2 on our rope. So here's our tag end. We're going to come down here to spot number 2. We're going to fluff this up a little bit. And then we're going to make a hole in it with our fingers. And then you want to make sure you're going through the exact middle of this rope. So we're actually going to count the strands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we only got 5 strands there. So we're going to pull one more strand around to this side. Make sure we're down through the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And double check the other side. Make sure we counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got our hole right directly through the middle of the rope. It is important that you get 6 strands on either side when you're doing a splice like this. So we've just got this opened up with our finger a little bit, enough that we can stick the tag end through. We're going to pull that tag in. We're going to pull it all the way down and pull it. And you can see here we're actually pulling this inside out of itself. So we've just made a loop, and that's twisted inside out. Now we're going to come up here to our shorter tag, our point number 1, closest to our tag end. Do the same thing. We're going to fluff this up a little bit. We're going to work our finger through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That way, flip it over. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we've got, again, another hole here. Fluff it up a little bit so we get our finger through it. Take our tag in. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through that loop. We're going to pull it down. We're going to pull it all the way through inside itself, just like that. Now, this is the hardest part of this, is now we're going to take this rope and we're going to undo this splice. So you can see the twist. This rope twisted through this way. Okay, kind of push that through. See how it twisted through. So we're going to do this other rope the other way so that it unwinds that twist. So all we're going to do is take the running line here, work this Got a little blunt nosed pair of pliers here just to get that last little bit through. Okay. So now we've pulled that through like that, and that untwisted the twist that we put into this rope right here, and now we've got an eye. Now what we do is we pull all this rope through. Here's our second eye, second twist that we did. We're going to pull that through, and now we're going to undo it. So we're going to take the end that's around our rope here, take this, we're going to undo this twist. We're going to do the same thing we did before. Going to undo that, push it back through, all that effort, and you can see what happened here. So we have our loop. This is going to be our eyelet. We have one end passing through this way, and then we have the other end passing through this way. So basically we have our tag end here, went through this part of the rope. Then our running line end turned around and went through this part of the rope. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but you can see as we pull this down, we're going to have what's called the locking brummel splice. And these two ropes now are locked together so that you can pull on them. They don't come apart, different directions. And this rope now won't pull apart when we do our long berry splice. That loop ended up a little bit smaller than I would like, but I'm not going to redo it because if I wanted to, I can still fit a thimble in there. Still big enough to go around any kind of hook that I'd be using it on. But it is a little bit smaller than the one on the other end. If you're real particular about, I guess I should show you that. If you're real particular about it, you could redo this splice and make it closer to size here. Doesn't really matter though. So now we've got it, we're going to run with it. Okay, for our next part, we're going to do our long berry splice. We got about 3 feet here, about 30 inches, somewhere in that range. Not critical, that distance, as long as you get enough. You see anywhere from, people talk about them in fid lengths or in rope diameters. Some say 50 times the rope diameter, some say 60, some say 75 times. Just depends on opinion a little bit, but make sure you get enough. So we got 30 inches, that's plenty. All right, now to do the splice. So like I said, we come down here, find this end where our tag end is going to come to, and then add, 8 or 10 inches or so. And this is where we're going to start our splice. So we're going to work this open. This is where the gun cleaning rod is, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to do this. We're just going to take our gun cleaning rod. We're going to start working this up the middle of our rope. When you pop out, make sure you go back, get it down the center. It is critical that you go down the center of this and don't accidentally pop out and get offline and end up going around a strand or something like that. It is critical that you stay right down the middle here. We're going to run this up all the way up, and now we're up to our loop. And basically you just come down about a rope diameter from where our splice comes in right here. I want to make sure it's pulled nice and tight. And we're just going to find a spot. You can see our tag end lays that direction. So we're going to find a spot right here, pop out between those two strands. And we're going to take this and we're going to scrunch it all up like that on here. That opens up that rope as big a diameter as we can possibly get down the center. And then you can see I'm also taking my finger and working this entrance point right here open to a nice big diameter. And we're going to come up here and take the end of our rope. I am going to take this tape off for now. And we're going to take this and we're just going to kind of stick that end of that gun cleaning rod inside the rope like that. take our magical electrical tape here, and we're just going to tape that like that to the gun cleaning rod. Now, I don't go too crazy with this because we're just going to take it off here in just a second, but give ourselves a nice little tape job there. And we're going to run this up, pull this down, make sure this is nice and open right here on this end, and just like that, we're going to zip that rope down the middle. There you go, done. Look at that, all crumpled up, done. Way easier than trying to do this with a fid or anything else. I'm telling you, that gun cleaning rod is the way to go. We're going to take our tape off here, and we're done with the gun cleaning rod. So now that we've got this spread out here, we've got, so that's about 8 to 9 inches or so. We can have a tape measure. I can tell you exactly how far that is. So I came up, let's see, my hand span's about 8 inches. So about that last 8 inches is enough to do a taper on the end of this rope. So we're now going to taper this in so that when it's inside this, it gives a nice smooth taper. You don't want to leave a harsh end like that. It creates a weak point in the rope, and it'll be where it breaks if it does. So we're going to create a nice smooth taper. So this is 12 strand rope. What we're going to do is we're going to pick out 6 strands along the length of this. So basically I go here, come down 2 inches, come down 2 inches, and pull out 2 strands in each place. So we're going to start right here where we were. We're just going to grab 1 strand here like this. We're just going to pull it out, leave it there, and we're going to come around here kind of on the opposite side of the rope. We're going to pull another strand. Okay, so we got 2 strands. They're not perfectly aligned there, but doesn't matter. I can come down about 2 inches here. We're going to grab another strand. Let's grab that one right there. Pull it out and do, looks like this one about right here would be the best one. Pull 2 more out. And as you're pulling these out, you kind of want to, you see how kind of on opposite sides of the rope with those strands coming out. It helps maintain the braid down here. Just keeps things together a little bit easier to work with as you're doing this. So I typically try to pull from opposite sides. And come down here, find the last one. Oops, you can see how that popped way up the rope. I don't want to do that one that far up, so we'll grab that one right there. And then we'll grab that one right there. Okay, so there's our 6 strands pulled out along the length of that. And then down here on the end, I'm just going to kind of flare these out like this. Just kind of flare these out. Take my nice sharp pocket knife here, and I'm going to cut these on an angle to give myself a taper over these last few inches. So I'm just going to take this knife. You can see I kind of cut a point onto those so they're nice and tapered there. And we're just going to work our way along and cut these strands off where they're at. And now you can see what we have. Kind of work these around, pull these down, and you can see we taper from 12 strands here. We lose 2, we lose 2, we lose 2, and then we have a nice taper on the end. So that tapers all the way down over that full 8 to 10 inches of rope. Now we're just going to milk the cow. We got all this bunched up here. We're just going to take this. We're just going to milk this up inside. Just like that. And we're going to really milk that. Just pull it down, get it good and tight. Over the length of this, you can see where a taper starts and tapers out. And we have a nice tapered, nice long taper, smooth taper, no sharp edges. It just tapers down real nice. And there you go. Bring you guys back in here. So this is the end. I just cut the knot out on this, and there's our cute little knot that we cut out. You can hear when I drop it, hard as a rock. It sounds like I'm dropping a piece of plastic on my bench here. How tight that knot is, kind of cool. Anyway, here's our loop that we just created where we cut our knot off. And here's our thimble. Now, I upsized my thimbles this time. I got some bigger thimbles to do this. This is actually for a 9/16 wire rope, so just bigger than half. My previous ones were 7/16, so smaller than half. I did that to make sure I just get a bigger loop here. I was having an issue. These are going to bend and crush just a little bit, this style, when you use them, put a heavy load into them. So this just gives me a little bit bigger, so that when it crushes down, I can still, the ends crush together, and it kind of gets a little more elongated this way. I'll still have room to get screw pin bow shackle through there both directions. That's why I did that. So now our task is to get this thimble fit in here. And you could do this with your brummel splice as you do your splice. You could do it tight enough that this thimble fits down in here when you're done, and it's just a permanent part of your rope. The only downside, like I say, to that is if you run into a situation where you need this thimble out, you can't just take it out. It's in there for good. Or if it distorts or something like that, you put enough load into it that it bends. And I've been on a recovery where I had one that bent so bad I couldn't get my bow shackle out of it. And I ended up cutting the whipping and being able to take the thimble and bow shackle all out, set it aside, deal with it later, and keep going with the recovery. And that's why I do it this way. And you can see with this 1/2-inch rope in these 9/16 thimbles, it actually fits down below flush for the most part on this. Give it a little bit of protection there against banging on the ground, that kind of thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to do use some whipping twine, and we're going to put these in here. So what I've got here, this is just some whipping twine. I usually use the size that's a little bit larger than this. Got the smaller stuff this time, but all I'm going to do is pull off about 3 or 4 feet of this. Pull up, I guess, about 6 feet, 5 feet arm span there, and we're going to whip this into place. So what I like to do on these is I use a constrictor knot to start. So, and it's often easier for me when I'm doing this constrictor knot method to just do it over my fingers like this and make a loop. Make the constrictor knot on my fingers, and then I'll slide it over the thimble when I get it done. But it's a basic constrictor knot. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen me do constrictor knots before. I use that same constrictor knot to attach my winch lines to my winch drum. I don't use the attachment method, but that's a constrictor knot. Now I'm going to take this knot, I've got the long running end hanging out this side. I'm actually going to take this constrictor knot, turn it around so that that long tag end is going away from me and my short tag end is pointing at me. And my knot just fell apart there. So give me just a second. I got to redo my constrictor knot here. Okay, got my constrictor knot. We're going to go on here, just slip this over. We're going to come down to about here, and we're going to start pulling this tight. And I got a bunch of tag end here. I'm going to just pull that back through so that I know I have plenty of whipping twine to work with here. Pull that back through to about that point. Okay, we're going to take our constrictor knot, make sure it's laying nice and tight together around the rope, and we're going to pull that tight. You don't have to go ridiculously tight on this, but you want to pull it down so that it holds, so that constrictor knot holds there. And that's one of the reasons why I like the constrictor knot, is it holds on itself so well that I can pull that down and I can let go of it, and it's there. It's going to stay there, no problem. So we're going to leave our tag end out for a second, hanging out here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to do a series of half hitches to build a little bit of a splice coming up here. And by doing that, all I mean is literally we're just going to throw throw a half hitch. See if I can make my hands work this morning. Throw a half hitch around this, and we're going to pull it down tight right there next to it. And we're just going to start stacking half hitches in there. We're going to pull that down about as tight as we did our constrictor knot. And then what I want to do, actually, I'm going to take this tag end from my constrictor knot, and I'm going to lay it up alongside my my rope right here. And I'm actually going to bury it underneath this first tag end. I'm going to bury it underneath. That way I know it's not going anywhere. And we're just going to start stacking those half hitches in there like that. And I go the same direction with every half hitch. You can alternate your half hitch directions if you want. What that does is that, let me show you on the other end of the rope here. So here's the other end that's already got one done. I don't know if you can tell, but you can tell there's kind of a, maybe see there's kind of a spiral ridge going up around this as it goes up around there. That's where your half hitch knot is. If you do all your half hitches the same direction, that ridge actually spirals around as it goes up. If you alternate your half hitch direction, you'd have a nice line, nice little line ridge that runs up there. So you can do it either way, alternating or the same direction. I prefer the spiral look, so I do them all the same direction. We're going to be here for a minute now because we're just going to start laying in half hitches and working our way around this rope as we go. And every time we do this, I make sure, feather caught in there, joys of working on my fly tying bench. You just want to make sure that the previous wrap lays right in next to the wrap that you did to the previous wrap, so that it lays down, makes a nice band as you start working around. And we're just going to keep going here, working our way around this rope, each time going around the end a little bit. And I've done, and then pull it down. So yeah, I missed right there. My tag didn't, or my wrap didn't lay in the right place. So we're going to lay it in the right place, pull it down. And we've gone far enough with that tag in now. I just do that to kind of hide it, keep it out of the way. But we'll cut it off now and get it out of the way. And we're just going to start piling half hitches in. So all right, bring you guys back in. You can see, you actually see on this one pretty good the spiral as I kind of twist that. You can kind of see the spiral that you end up with by doing those half hitches. But we're down far enough now that this, you could probably work that thimble out maybe if you needed to, but it's not going to fall out of there by any means. We got a little bit left. So now we're going to do another constrictor knot, and it's always a little bit harder to do the one going this direction. So I'm going to flip it around this way. Now we got little tiny tag end here. Just going to take and snip that off. And then don't cringe. I'm just going to, I know heat is bad, but we're just going to, just like that, we just melted our little tag end in there, didn't touch our rope. But there you go. That's how I put my thimbles in. And if I need to, in the field, I always have a knife with me. I can just cut that wrapping right there. Just cut it off, pull the thimble out, and I've got just a loop on the rope if I need it. But this allows me to have a good solid thimble on the end with the ability to easily swap it out if I pull it out of the rope if I need to. So that's how I do my extensions. They work out real nice. I haven't had any issues with them. Highly recommend it. All right, everybody. That was a kind of a quick and easy video today, but I wanted to show you that one because I wanted to get it out there, kind of show you how I do my rope and how you can take and repair an extension like that, turn it into something else, add another loop on the end, and make it last a little bit longer, make it useful for something else. Don't have to necessarily just trash it because we got that knot in it. Another thing you could have done in this situation, we actually could have cut the knot out and then did a double berry splice both ends and repaired it like that. We would have lost about 6 feet of rope, 5, 6 feet of rope. Made our extension shorter and had a thick spot where we had that berry. But you can repair it just like you would repair a winch line as well on that in that situation. But didn't need to. I'd rather split it up into extensions. But there you go. That was a little project for you, and hope you enjoyed it. And we'll catch you on the next one.